Well, what's up, people? My name is Rob Barrington, and I am a professional bridge player and world-renowned instructor of that game. And I'm here to teach you bridge from the very beginning all the way up into the full version of the game. And while I do that, I'm going to dip into a bunch of different other trick-taking games that you can learn and enjoy with your friends, family, vacationers, wherever you are. All you'll need is a deck of cards, maybe a piece of paper and a pencil, and the ability to have fun with whomever you are playing with. I'm going to give you a few different games, but we're all going to be circling around the same type of game. Bridge is a two versus two trick taking game. So it's a partnership game, and it's a game where we are taking tricks, and we're going to get to what that is in just a second. Some of you have played similar versions of trick taking games. You know them as hearts or spades. For those of you in the Midwest, you've probably played a game called euchre. These are games where you are taking tricks, meaning everyone plays a card, and the highest card will see that they win a trick, and then they will lead to the next trick. We're going to talk about the mechanics of that in a second. But I intend to give you a full version of the game of bridge, but along the way, I'm going to show you how to have a great amount of fun and how to improve your brain power through just this deck of cards. I see so many commercials about these drugs that are helping your memory and improve your brain function. Well, if you play a game that's a little bit difficult and taxing and makes you use your mind a little bit more than you're used to, or more importantly, in different ways than you're used to, you're just bound to be sharper going forward, and you get to do this almost without knowing it because it's so much fun to just play cards with your friends. I'm going to give you lots of ways to do that, but ultimately, my goal, my hope, is to make as many of you that are watching this right now full-fledged bridge players at the end. Now, don't get that picture in your mind, folks. I know you're picturing a lot of people with walkers, and there's no problem with that either. But it is a game that a lot of people played in the 60s and 70s, in fact, 50s and 60s, really. It was huge in the United States, especially. And that's why you see kind of a lot of players of that age, simply because that was its heyday. It is still very popular, not only in the US, but even more increasingly popular worldwide. They have mind sports games all across the world and world bridge championships every couple of years. So it is alive and thriving, and it is in an amazing way to not only engage socially with like-minded people, but to keep your mind sharp and really, really, if you get serious with it, have a great competitive outlet because the competitive bridge scene is really, really quite exciting and a pure test of skill. But before we get all the way there to your world championship dreams, folks, we're going to talk about the basics of trick-taking games. Now, bridge at its core is a trick-taking game where we're working together with a partner to take as many tricks as we possibly can. And in fact, most trick-taking games are exactly the same, right? We're all trying to take as many tricks as we can, as often as possible, and the player or teams that do that the best end up winning these sorts of games. So let's jump in and talk about the basics of most of the games we're going to look at. We're going to use a standard 52 card deck, which is like you would see right here. This happens to be a deck of bridge cards. Bridge cards a little bit slimmer and a little bit easier to hold a bunch of rather than poker cards. So if you're playing games that require you to hold a lot of cards, and bridge makes you hold 13, you want to play with these smaller cards. But the deck and ranks will be as follows. Unless we talk about different games with different rules, the standard understanding is the lowest in the deck is the deuce, and the highest in the deck is the ace, and that's where the ranks will be. Now, it doesn't matter the suits at this point. It may at certain points during the deal or during whatever game you might be playing, the suits might be relevant. But here we're just talking about normal rank of cards. So if a player plays a seven of clubs, and someone plays the jack of clubs behind them, the jack of clubs will be the one that wins that trick or wins that card, and that will continue for the rest of time, basically. Bridge, other sorts of trick-taking games that you're going to learn, this will be the normal rank of cards, unless you are told otherwise through the rules of the game you are playing. So let's take a look at what a trick looks like. It always starts with one player putting a card face up directly on the table, and this is what's called a lead. Uh, The person that starts each of these sorts of plays, especially the first trick of whatever game you're playing, will be determined by the rules of that game. For example, in bridge, the person that's to the left of the what we call declarer, the person that will control both of the hands, they're the person that always starts the play. They always make what's called the opening lead. In other types of games, it might be the person right to the left of the dealer, or it could just be determined by a number of different things. But the moral to the story is one player will start what's called the trick, and they will put a card face up on the table, and that will be the leader, right? They've led the four of hearts. And what will transpire will be the rest of the players making a play to this trick. And this is done in turn clockwise around the table. What do I mean by in turn? We're not flipping our cards up at the same time, right? We're taking what we see in front of us and using that information to maybe use or play a different card from our hand. And that's the beauty of every trick taking game. You're going to get information by what other players choose, right? And what they choose will kind of give you ideas. Hey, they may not have this card that I thought they had because they may have done this instead, right? So we play in turn, and we want it that way. Player three in this situation is in an amazing spot because whether or not they're going to win this thing, they're going to get to see what everybody else does first and have last play to this trick, right? So let's take a look as it circles around the table. We'll see the player one plays the ace of hearts, and now you can see player two and player three should try their best to play one of their lower cards because they know the ace of hearts is the highest in that suit, and no other card can beat that because that's the highest one, so they'll get to play their lower cards. And the play just is going to proceed clockwise around the table. Let's look at some other rules about trick taking here. Once the lead is made, we go clockwise around the table. Everybody plays in turn. Again, that's very important. You want that information. You want to see what everybody does first, let them play, and you will play last or wherever you are in that chain. The other big thing is the players, every player must follow suit to the card that was led or to the lead. So that last lead was a heart lead, right? So when they lead a heart, every player must play a heart if they have one. If they do not have a heart, guess what, folks? They can play anything they want. But if they have a heart, even if that ace was played, if I only had one heart and it was the king, I must play the king. I have no choice. That is the rule, and that will be the rule for all the games you learn on this channel. I will never disobey that one. The suit that is led must be followed to. That is the rule for all time. And then the player that plays the highest card of the suit led initially will win the trick. So there, the ace of hearts was the suit that was led initially. No one can play a higher card. If you play the ace of spades, that is totally irrelevant, right? In fact, the two of spades is the same as the ace. It would mean nothing because the ace of hearts is the winner there. All right. When we get to what's called the trump suit, we'll modify this rule slightly and we'll be there shortly. The player that wins the trick leads to the next trick, right? So the rules of the game will determine who starts the lead. The rest of the play will center around who wins the trick. They lead to the next trick. And whatever game we're playing, in bridge, we have 13 cards, so we have 13 tricks on every single hand. In other games, we may have varying number of tricks on each hand, but we play until all the cards are gone. And when all the cards are gone, we have that number of tricks done, and we count and see who has what. Here are the key points here. Each player plays one card per trick. So no one can go back and say, hey, I think I didn't want to play the king. I'll play the queen instead, or I'll play the three instead. No, once you make your play, it's committed, it's over, it's face up on the table. That's a played card, folks. You're done. When leading, you can choose anything you want, right? So when you're the person starting, you win a trick, or the rules suggest that you start the play, you can do anything you want. You're not restricted. You don't have to lead a certain suit. You can lead anything you want from your hand at all times. Failure to follow suit is penalized. So that's just going to back to the rule that's very important that we will maintain throughout all the games I give you. You must follow suit to the lead at all times. And if you don't, you're going to be penalized in whatever way your game might have. So in a competitive version, you're penalized points and maybe you're barred sometimes if you continue to do this, which no one does. Everyone figures it out at some point, and everyone's going to make a mistake at some point as well. So there's nothing wrong with that. Otherwise, if you're around the kitchen table or at a wine tasting or something, or whacking back a few cocktails, you can punish them in any sort of way you see fit in that sort of realm. So keep it fun, but keep the rules in mind, folks. Following suit is important because it's giving people the information that they need. All right, let's keep dancing. So here we go, folks. The trick winner, player one, with this ace of hearts, would now lead to the following trick. Right, so here they are. They're now the leader because they won the previous trick, and they're going to lead the six of clubs. It's going to go the king by player two, ace by player three, and three by player four. Notice player four has no business playing a big card here. They can see they have no chance to win this trick. The ace and the king have already been played. And there, player three has won this trick. Right, so there's the winner of this trick, which means, guess what? They lead themselves. And here they go. They lead the two of diamonds. It goes ace of spades to our left. Five of clubs by player one, and king of hearts by the right hand opponent. So here's my question, folks. Who wins this trick? The rule is the person that plays the highest card to the suit led to the trick, meaning whoever led to start determines the suit that must be followed, which is diamonds. And whoever leads the highest or whoever plays the highest card of the suit led wins the trick. Who played the highest diamond, folks? It was player three. Player three wins this trick, folks. There it is. So, this shows you something very important about trick-taking games. When we have a long suit, right? When we have more cards than they do in a certain suit, here this player three has a whole bunch of diamonds and no one else has anything. As long as there's no trump suit to interfere, every time we play a card from that suit, we win, right? So it shows you just a beautiful part of card play. If you get the lead and you're the only one that has cards in a certain suit, frequently you will take a whole bunch of tricks in that suit. It's good for you most of the time. All right, let's keep dancing. All right, so I'm going to jump over to our big table here. Here's our practice table. And I'm going to set up a game that we're basically going to play for a while. We're gonna progress further faster, but this is a game that I kind of like, and I'm going to make a bunch of video shorts on, where we're just going to start taking tricks. And here we're at a very simple version. I'm going to introduce you to how we're going to play this game going forward. It's going to be super simple. We're not going to be worried too much about keeping track of everything other than you personally having your journey, right? So what we're looking at is what we would look at the bridge table. Now, different forms and different versions of the game we're going to play differently, but in bridge and the eventual game we're going to hopefully all be playing after these videos are over, we, during the play of the hand, will have a situation or a hand that is face up on the table, and that is the dummy hand, folks. So in the game of bridge, every version we're ever going to play, there will be a hand that is face up on the table that everybody can see. There will also be what's called the declarer, who will have a hidden hand across from that dummy. We play a partnership game in bridge, so that hand and the dummy is the partner of this hand, and this player, the person with the hidden hand, will control the action on both sides of the table. So the dummy hand, I want you to consider just like another player. When we play cards, the play will proceed clockwise and dummy will have its turn to play. But this hand, the hand on the bottom, or if we think of this as a compass, folks, which we will eventually get to, the north, south, west, and east, right? This player on the south side, for our purposes, for all these examples, will always be controlling these top two hands. All right, so we have the control on the bottom and the top. So here is part one of my question. Oh, first of all, let me just tell you what's around the table. Everybody has spades. There are eight spades out there. They are the eight highest spades in the deck. So they are ace, king, queen, jack, 10, 9, 8, 7. Right? Those are the spades that are out there. They were dealt randomly, and we came up with this position. Our hand has the 10-9, and the dummy hand has the ace and the queen. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds, and if you need more time, folks, you can pause this video anytime you want. But I'm going to give you 5 seconds to tell me which hand you would like to start the lead from. So this version of the game, folks, or the game I'm teaching you right now, I'm telling you, you can choose which hand you want to lead from first. So you get to decide which one, folks. 5 seconds. Pause if you need to, folks. The correct answer for 1 point, and you can score yourself and type in the chat how many points you get total after this exercise. Here we want to lead from that side of the table, and you might not realize it now, but this is exceptionally important stuff, and it's because of the way our trick mechanics work. Remember, when we play a card, and we're going to play from our hand, we play clockwise around the table. So now, when I get to the other side, I have more information than I would have had if I had started from the dummy hand. In fact, when I start from the dummy hand, as the leader, I am leading with no information whatsoever. Instead, in this version, I get to lead towards those two cards and see at least one other player's choice, right? So every time we play a card in any trick-taking game, and even though after a few cocktails, some of you might not know why you're playing a card, there is a reason to it, right? There's a reason why we play a certain card. And sometimes it's just rules that will help us decide these things. And we'll talk about all that much later. But first off, part two of this question, and for your second point possibility, what card would you like to play from the dummy hand now, folks? 5 seconds. The correct answer is the queen. And I know some of you are going, what are you talking about? But here's why. We are missing a crucial card on this hand, and it is the king of spades. And the way we have started the play of this hand is we've started from our hand, which means we have to go clockwise around the table. So what we are hoping for in a situation like this is exactly what we see happening on this hand. We are hoping that the king of this spade suit is in our left-hand opponent's hand. If we force them to make their decision first, and they have the king, we will always be able to take two tricks from this hand. Notice in this version, the correct play for your second point would have been to play the queen, and that is because the king is on our left, and now we get to take the queen, and now the ace will be a winner. And this is what we call a finesse, folks. For those of you who have had bridge players around your family, or you've heard this in passing anyway, it's what we call a finesse. We are taking a trick with a card that's not technically the highest card, but it is a card that we, by the play of the suit, get to capture their king with. And watch this, folks. If they play the king, it's even easier, and we have to sweat less, right? Now we just win that ace of spades, and the queen will now be the highest card, which we'll take two tricks with. I want you to recognize the alternate version of this, where the king is to our left. All right, or excuse me, to our right. Let me get my directions going here. All right, the king is to our right east side. Is there any way we can play these cards if we have to play them ourselves, which we always will, folks? So they're not going to voluntarily lead from that right-hand opponent's side. Spades, they're never going to do that because they can see that dummy hand, right? They can see both of those cards, and that's common information for every player in this exercise and in the real bridge world. So the answer to the question is there any way we can play to take two tricks? There isn't. And we have to assume they're going to be correct in their play, right? The only way we do is if they forget they have the king and play low, right? Notice they get to make their decision after we do, and this shows how position is important at the bridge table when we're playing these tricks. When they get to make their decision at the end, they'll always get it right. Right? When they play the queen, they'll win the king. If we decide to play the ace, they have the answer for that. All right, we'll play low and we'll wait to capture that king. So here's the moral to the story, folks. When the king is to our right, or more importantly, when the king is behind the ace and the queen in this situation, we will never take more than one trick because of the way these cards lay. However, every time the king is to our right, or is in the right spot, excuse me, to our left, we will always take an extra trick. And that is because of the mechanics of card play and trick taking. They have to play in order, and we have the correct response for everything they choose to do, folks. This is a finesse, and this will return to you over and over and over and over and over again, and not just bridge, but every form of cards. When we have these cards in any position, no matter what game we're playing, we don't have to have a face-up hand or nothing. The ace and queen behind the king is a good position, right? Because sitting behind will give you that all instant information from what that player will do in front of you. All right, let's take a look at another problem for you. Problem two, and this is a 2-point possibility, folks. Point number one, which hand would you like to lead from first? Would you like to lead from your hand or the dummy hand? Which hand would you like to lead from first? 5 seconds. You want to lead from your hand, and just think about this in general. When we're missing an honor and we're trying to capture it through this finesse, and this is exactly what we're looking at again, just in a totally different way. We're missing the king. We do have the queen jack in one hand and the ace in the other. The moral of the story is when we're taking these finesses, we are leading towards the highest card, almost always. So we want to be leading towards the highest card, and that means we want to lead first from the hand that doesn't have the ace in it, right? When I mean towards, I mean when we lead anything from this side of the table, the trick is going to go through the left-hand opponent towards that dummy hand, and we're going to get to see what this player does first, right? We're forcing them to make a play first by the order in which we play this. If we were to have chosen to play from the north hand, right? If we play the ace from over there, right? Now they can choose what to do next with both hands. They get second choice, right? We want to give them first choice. So we play the queen from our hand. And part two, folks, for your second point, what would you play from the north hand now? Or the dummy hand, if you will, the top hand. That's right, folks. The only correct play is the nine of spades. And what do we do here, folks? Well, we're hoping that the king of spades is in lefty's hand. Our left-hand opponent, when they have the king of spades, will never be able to take a trick with it because we can trap it here. With this queen of spades, we give them no good choice. If they play low, when we play low, we take an extra trick. Right, when they play the eight of spades, and now the ace of spades is ours. If, however, they decide to play the king of spades, we have an answer for that. We win the ace, and then the jack will be our trick as well. Notice we could have played the jack for the same exact way, right? The jack and the queen are equivalent for us because they're our cards, right? These hands are together. Our hand and that dummy hand are two of the same team's cards, right? So the order in which we play this is very important. And once again, folks, here we're going to slide that king over to this hand. Is there any way we can play these cards and avoid losing to that trick? Not ourselves, right? Everything we do, they have an answer for. Okay? That's not the right answer, folks. They're not going to be that asleep, and if they are, oh well. Right here, they win the king. If, however, we decide to play the ace for some reason, which would be bad for us in either way, they would always play low and have that king to take afterwards, right? So they always have the correct information, which is the same reason why it works for us when the king is on our left, right? We don't have this information, and let me hide the hands, folks. Just a very important understanding here. We're not going to have this perfect information of where the king is. But if I tell you that if it's here, we always, always, always lose it, we're not taking any extra risk, right? If we're always going to lose it if it's there, but we never have to lose it if it's to our left, that's a 50% chance at an extra trick with no downside, right? I was always going to lose a spade anyway, so I might as well, if I think it's going to be advantageous for us, take an extra chance here, 50-50. If it's right, we're going to get two tricks, and if it's wrong, we take the same one we always had. So guess what, folks? We assume it's there, right? Even if it's not, We haven't lost anything. But when it's there, we've gained a trick. Notice? Queen of Spades we get to win with because in this version, that King of Spades is right there to the left. And no good play from that player. If they played the king, we saw what would happen. When they play low, we have the answer as well. Let's look at one more, a little more complicated. 3 points available for this one, folks, and then I will leave you to practice this more in some other versions and give you some other avenues and another game as well with some trick-taking potential for you. So first off, which hand, your hand or the dummy hand, would you like to lead from first? What's your answer for 1 point? 5 seconds. Pause if you need to. All right, once again, and keep this in your mind, folks, when we are missing a card and we are in these sorts of finesse positions where we might be able to trap it between hands, we want to be leading towards the highest card, not from that hand. We don't want to lead there first. We want to lead towards it, so we give the player to our left or between that position, sometimes to our right, the chance to play first. So that's the correct hand. 1 point to you if you decided to lead from your own hand. Now, folks, second point available. Which card will you lead from your hand, right? We are definitely going to lead from our own hand. Which of these 3 cards would you like to lead? 5 seconds. The only incorrect answer that you will not get a point for is the 4. We cannot lead the 4 of spades. I'm going to show you why right now. All right. Actually, sorry. Let's go through the correct way first, and then we'll back into the bad way. So first off, the jack or the 10. I'm going to play the jack, and I'm going to give you your 3rd point possibility. Which card will you play from the north hand? You've led the jack or the 10. I'm going to choose the jack for you. It goes 7 on your left. Which card will you play from that dummy hand? The beauty of seeing both hands is you know what cards you have, right? So you know the jack, the 10, the queen are all exactly the same. So we don't have to do anything but play the 3. And remember, for our finesse, when we're missing one of those honors, if we're missing the honor and we need it to be in a certain spot to be successful, we assume it's there. So in order to be really successful in spades, we'd love for the king to be to our left. And if it is, we will take all of these tricks. And if not, worst case, we take 2 out of the 3 tricks. So this is a really good spot for us. And I want you to watch what happens. It goes 5 of spades. And now for your bonus point, folks. You lead another spade towards that hand. It goes low or the 8 on your left. What will you play now? Well, unless you're playing against a really shifty player to your right, when one finesse wins, meaning your jack of spades was able to win a trick, we can be pretty sure the king is to our left, and that means the queen is enough here. And it certainly is, and that is 3 tricks for you. I want to show you the disaster of leading the 4 of spades, and I'm going to show you all the hands now, folks. The king was correct on this. And notice if it was wrong for us, we would have lost 1 trick, but had 2 in the bank afterwards. The ace we're always getting, and the queen or the jack will develop for a trick. But if we play the 4 of spades, folks, we're going to be forced to play the queen over there. And now, based on the laws of trick taking, which hand has to lead to the next trick, folks? That's right. The dummy hand wins this trick. So the dummy would have to lead from this hand, and their only choices are the ace, which both players have an easy answer for, and now they'll take the last trick. Or let's say they lead low. Well, now I'll take my king now. Thank you very much. Right? So this is a nice hand to look at that gives you choices, and the choice, let's go forward there. There we go. All right, the choice here is just, hey, partner, I need to make sure I'm in the correct hand to repeat the finesse if it's successful, right? So here, because it's successful one time, I get to run it again from this side. And notice, even if this player decides to cover and honor the jack with the king, now I'll win that ace. And the 10 is my savior over here, right? There's my queen of spades, and there's my 10 of spades, right? So we don't care what cards we take tricks with. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, it's pretty sexy to win that trick with the ace or the king. I don't care, right? I'm a bridge player. I like winning three tricks. So I do not care that I have to win one of them with the 10 of spades. I'm happy, right? It's the same. It's the same count. It's like golf, every stroke counts. A 350-yard drive counts the same as a 2-foot putt. You want to take every trick you can. It doesn't matter if it's winning with a really good looking card or winning with a smaller card. All right, folks, that is our normal trick taking where we do not have a trump suit. All right, but sometimes we're going to have what's called the trump suit involved, and that will only really be relevant when we are out of suits. So let me show you what I mean. Here we have the leader as player one, and we're going to be playing with a trump suit. And a trump suit, I want you to think of like a wild card, except remember the one rule we're always going to keep to is when a card is led, we have to follow suit at all times. So a trump suit is not wild in the way that you can just play it anytime you want. No. You can only play trump when you lead it, obviously, or when it is led, or when you are out of a suit being led currently. So let's take a look at play with the trump suit, and we're going to amend our rule. So remember the original trick taking rule is the player that plays the highest card of the suit led initially wins the trick. Well, let's amend that. The player that plays the highest card of the suit led initially, or the highest trump card, if there is a trump suit, will win the trick. All right, so here, let's assume hearts is trump and show you a way that a trick could work with a trump suit. Player one leads the six of clubs. Player two, the king. Player three, the ace. We've seen this trick before in a non-trump situation. The ace of clubs would clearly win normally, but player four plays the two of hearts. And what do we know when player four plays the two of hearts, folks? Well, we know that they do not have clubs because they are not allowed to play anything but a club if they had it. So in fact, player four is out of the club suit and they are choosing to play a heart. When hearts is trump, and that's what they've agreed in this game is the trump suit, that will command this trick. So now the ace of clubs loses to that lowly little two of hearts, and that's because this is a situation where hearts is trump. Now, don't get confused, folks. We're going to give you ways to determine what the trump suit will be. In fact, the first game we're going to learn is actually called suits, or sometimes commonly referred to as trumps as well. You're going to deal with this quite a bit, so we're going to get a lot of practice, and this just shows you how powerful it can be. So when we're out of a suit, we get to do what's called trump things. So here, just in an English way to say it, player four has trumped the ace of clubs and has won this trick, or has trumped in clubs. All right, so now player four would be the leader. Hearts would be trump again. They lead the king of spades. It goes ace of spades. And now player two plays the four of hearts. So right now, player two would be winning this trick. Player one was right before this thinking, hey, that's pretty good. I played the ace. I'm going to win this trick. But when hearts is the trump suit and player two having no spades left to follow with, plays the four of hearts, but now player three has an answer. They are also out of spades, and they now play the nine of hearts. And guess what, folks? They win the trick. And this is what's called over trumping, or what we call trumping in the bridge game. We call it roughing sometimes. So over roughing or giving your partner a rough, or roughing or trumping have the same exact meaning. And this just means that player three here would win this trick because they played the highest trump card to the trick that was started, right? So even though spades was the start of this trick, this player followed suit with what they thought was a winner, but now player two trumped in with the four of hearts, and player three said, oh, well, I guess I'll play a higher heart. Now, I want you to make sure we know both of these players must have zero spades in their hand for this to work, right? So they have to have had no spades in their hand, and because of that, they were able to win these tricks with that trump suit. Let's look at one last example with diamonds as the trump suit, right? Player four over there highlighted will be the leader to this trick. And we'll see the king of spades get played, the ace of spades get played by player one, and now the four of hearts and the nine of hearts. So who wins this trick, folks? Simple stuff, right? If diamonds is trump, well, no diamond has been played to this trick. So normal trick taking rules apply. The player that plays the highest card to the suit being led will win the trick unless someone plays a trump card. And then it's whoever plays the highest trump card to that trick that will win the trick. So here, the ace of spades would win because guess what? Diamonds is trump, and that's the way it goes. Okay, folks, that's all I have for lesson one. And we have now got the ball rolling on your bridge journey. So this is just a normal trick taking exercise. I'm going to set something up where we have this little kind of problem of the day. I'm going to do five first, one through five, and then every day for the foreseeable future, I'm just going to add one problem to the list where we're going to have to figure out our trick taking potential and earn points as we make correct decisions going forward, kind of like we started doing today. The next few videos you're going to see are introductions to different sorts of card and trick taking games, and also an introduction to bridge and ways we can start practicing playing a real bridge hand, getting towards a very good version of bridge that we can play with and against others all around our community and all around the world. So stay tuned, folks. Thank you for joining me for class one, and I will see you not only for these prepared videos, but also for live classes in the near future where we can talk about this together. I just want to have a little bit of content prepared for you first and a little bit of practice under your belts, and then all the questions you'll be asking will be even more meaningful for me and for you. So let's dance, folks. Get to practicing, and I'll see you in not only those trick taking demonstrations, but also the practice exercises I will have for you after each of these videos. Take care, folks.